chapter which we wanted to discuss on being offended and on the power of forgiveness. And we could sometimes stop and ask questions. And Devaki Mataji will write the answers on her computer, and I'll read them out. What do you think? Well, this is all we have, unless somebody wants. Feel free to step up and take over, Prabhu. And if I'm falling down, and talking like a crow, please pull me up from my Vyasa-san. So we're going to do our best as we can at the last moment. Om Tat Sat. Is that okay? Okay. Should I just start reading? So we're just going to get into it, so to save you from having to tolerate this crow speaking. Is this the right one? Okay, the chapter is being offended. Okay. Once we understand the deeper importance of cultivating tolerance, it becomes clear to us what hides behind the phenomena of being offended, an inability to truly tolerate. In his purport to the Srimad Bhagavatam 1:18.48, Srila Prabhupada explains very nicely the mood of a Vaishnava. But he, Risha Samika, knew also that a pure devotee is callous about worldly advantages or reverses. As such, devotees are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc. As far as such things are concerned in personal affairs, the devotees does not care for them. Making the diagnosis. A Vaishnava will never take offense. His deep humility will allow him to always remember his insignificance and low position. I have surely mistreated so many living entities in my past lives. Therefore, according to my karma, I am destined to suffer so much more than this. A proud person will think the opposite. How can they treat me like this? Don't they understand who I am? I deserve so much better treatment. They don't give me any respect and appreciation for all the service I have done. In this way, we repeatedly take offense. When we experience being offended, we may also feel a physical pain in the region of our heart. It is the pain that the false ego experiences, not receiving the gratification it expects and demands. But it has nothing to do with our entity as a spirit souls. It is experience on the level of the false ego. The glorious examples from which Shastras discussed in the previous chapter clearly illustrate a Vaishnava will never take offense, no matter how neglectful he is treated. As we gradually become free from the influence of the false ego through our sincere devotional practice, we proportionately develop genuine humility. As a result, we will very naturally develop the ability to forgive and to forget. We will not get offended by any longer, and any quality of forgiveness will manifest, even in the situation when we are strongly neglected or heavily insulted. The quality of tolerance and forgiveness will gradually manifest as a side effect of our endeavor to subdue and dissolve our false ego. With spiritual intelligence, we can come to the diagnosis and understand that being offended constitutes our own problem, not the problem of others around us who have ill-treated us. Sometimes we may even get offended without any objective reason. It may simply take place within our own mind. We may imagine all kinds of things and suspect an inimical attitude in others towards us. even if it's not even there. It only exists within our mind, and we still get offended. If we are continuously search to be offended, we will always find what we are looking for, even when it isn't there. Let us imagine the following example. You are a senior devotee. You are scheduled to speak at a public Pando program in Mughal. Your speaking time is at the end of the program, and you may get offended, thinking it is to be a sign of disrespect. However, according to Vaishnava etiquette, on many public programs, the chief guest speaks at the very end. He is even given the last word, which may leave a strong impression on people's minds. Nevertheless, you may be offended. Or imagine a sannyasi is giving a lecture at a festival, and you are requested to translate his talk from English into the local language. You may get offended, considering it too menial a service being used as a translator. However, to translate is a highly important service that requires good qualifications. It should be an honor for you to serve in this way. Nevertheless, you may get offended. Once we accept ownership of a problem, understanding that the solution lies in our personal internal work rather than blaming others for our hurt feelings, we have a chance to overcome the negative within. The feeling of being offended is a warning indicator that shows us when to look within ourselves for unresolved issues. To be offended is a choice we make. It is not a condition inflicted or imposed upon us by someone or something else. There is a difference between maliciously offending somebody on purpose and somebody offended by the truth. If we are offended by the truth, it is even more of our problem. If the truth of offender offends us, we will not understand something. Even when a Vaishnava is purposefully ill-treated, he will not take offense. Such is the glorious power of tolerance. Often a person may be offended if another corrects him. Such reaction shows even more so how the false ego is at work. Rather, we should understand then who corrects us is our dearmost friend, acting for our own true welfare. He is helping us to improve ourselves. In an attempt to build a sheltering relationship, a strong indication of how much we deeply take shelter within our hearts is whether or not we are eager to accept correction from this person. When we are allowed to touch on it, I'll give you that again. When we allow him to touch on the very sensitive points in this innermost core of our heart, which we will not want anyone else to touch, then we are taking shelter. The correction may cause some little pain to the false ego, to our own false ego. But it is a sweet pain because it comes from our well-being, confident friend. This is an important aspect of sheltering a relationship. We should be eager for such correction, as it is a sign of a loving and intimate exchange. Then we truly have taken shelter. As long as we avoid correction or getting offended by it, we have not yet learned how to fully take in shelter. The sacred place of the heart. Resentment develops if we cannot let go of the internal ego battle in regards to a person or a situation. Our false ego cries for justice as we suppress and swallow our negative feelings and bottle them up. But inside of us, the false ego continues to rebel and protest, and thus the resentment builds up. We can understand our hearts to be a sacred place. By maintaining grudges, we allow the toxic effects of resentment to pollute those sacred chambers of our heart. That which offends us only weakens us. Holding on to the feeling of being offended only magnifies the same destructive energy that offends us in the first place. Okay? I'm going to give you that again. That which offends us only weakens us. Holding on to that feeling of being offended only magnifies the same destructive energy that offended us in the first place. And as we poison our hearts by hanging on to it rather than letting go of it and moving on. Nelson Mandela stated, "Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemy." Within our minds, we try to punish the others by maintaining our own anger and ill feelings towards them. But in actuality, we punish ourselves. We continue to carry the negativity within us and therefore maintain the negative association of the person of whom the ill feelings are associated. Being easily offended can be a sign of being self-centered, insecure, and lacking wisdom. It appears as a small problem, but in reality, it will all keep us from experiencing joy, peace of mind, and Krishna's mercy. Sometimes people carry the burden of resentment within their hearts for many years, whereas the other person forget about the event a long time ago and has moved on. Unfortunately, so often we have devotees leaving the association of the Vaishnavas because of this very reason, being offended. Some disagreement has taken place, and some harsh words may have been exchanged. A person may be offended, not being able to overcome the resentment building up in their hearts. They may find all the justifications within their minds and all the reasons why the community of the devotees is not worth associating with any longer. As a result, their spiritual practice becomes weak or even dries up entirely. They fade away, never to be seen again. Whenever anyone has affronted us, we can raise our consciousness so high that the offense cannot reach it. As our relationship with Krishna gradually becomes a tangible reality for us, we can take refuge at his lotus feet. We no longer look for the occasion to be offended, but we do not judge and label others. We experience a deep satisfaction. We experience a deep satisfaction. We experience a deep satisfaction that is beyond the effects of anyone or anything external. If someone has offended us, insulted us, or disappointed us, let it go. If we are remembering all the ways that we have been hurt or forgotten, let it go. We may ask ourselves, what good does it do for me to hold on to this? Conclusion. Every day we have plenty of opportunities to get angry, stressed, or offended. But what we are doing when we indulge in these negative emotions is giving something outside of ourselves power over our own happiness and consciousness. We can choose not to allow things to upset us. The only real conflict that we have ever had in this life will not be with others, but with our own false ego and ourselves. We have come to the point of agreeing to embark on this journey of hard internal labor. The steps for this internal work that I have described in the previous sections of this chapter can also be nicely applied here. Hearing about the phenomena of being offended, desiring to give up this tendency of being I'll give you that again. The steps of this internal work will internal work that I have described in the previous sections of this chapter will also be nicely applied here. Hearing about the phenomena of being offended, desiring to give up this tendency, being introspective and honest, deeply reflecting within our own hearts what motivates us, we are cultivating, catching ourselves doing the wrong things, calling out to Krishna in a helpless begging him to help us to get on, to let go of our feelings of being offended. We can cry out, Krishna, my Lord, please uproot this false ego from my heart. It has given me so much suffering and pain, I can't let go of it by myself, but you can kindly help me to shake it off. If we do this internal work by Krishna's grace, we will eventually be able to let go of our disposition to take offense. Okay. Could you understand anything, or is it difficult to follow the reading? Please feel honest to say something. You understood? What do you say? It's too fast? I'm speaking too fast. I should slow down. Okay, thank you for telling me. Should I start over? No, I'm kidding. I'll slow down, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments so far? Okay, Prabhu, do we need a mic for you?
Yes, Mataji, I understand these topics and very important, and generally we should not take offense. But just I'm trying to reconcile, like in third canto we see when Hiranyaksha speaks harsh words, Lord Varadev feels hurt and feels bad. We see some of Prabhupada's godfathers were not having good respect for him and differences of opinions. These are Lord and pure devotees, we are ordinary struggling sadhakas. So I also try not to take offense, but sometimes I maintain a respectful distance there. Because we have a broad spectrum of devotees and people. So I just want to maintain respectful distance so that I don't bother him, he doesn't bother me. Is it okay sometimes?
I'm going to repeat this to the ether world. I guess it depends on your own spiritual strength. The pain of the Vaishnavas, okay? The pain that the Varahadev experienced would not be a pain of being offended. Should I repeat it again? I'm going to give you that again. It depends on your own spiritual strength. The pain that Varahadev experienced would not be a pain of being offended. Okay? It is rather a pain of seeing others in such low consciousness. Anybody else? Anything else to ask, Mataji?
I have a question. I don't know if it's
we should never swallow and suppress. In such cases, the best would be to tolerate. When you know the person, then maybe later you can say, once you have cooled down, then maybe later, then maybe better to say later, once you have cooled down, that that behavior bothers you. Or you get another person to correct them. Whenever we find ourselves in such situations, we can gratefully try to accept them as an opportunity to dissolve our own false ego. Is that okay?
Something that helps me, at least here in Vrindavan, is to think like they are just, they are so much in love with Krishna, they don't see anything else, they just see Krishna and they can stop over you. So we have the pastime of Lord Chaitanya and Devaki. But again, Lord Chaitanya was like, these ladies on top of my head. But the servants they were not happy. Actually, they were angry with the man. So, where we stand?
Should we repeat his question? Okay, I guess so. Okay. I'm also often remembering this pastime. I am also often remembering this pastime with Lord Chaitanya.
Normally, at the end, I'm just praying that I wish I could have that enthusiasm in my life.
Anybody else? It is a perverted reflection false ego likes it. A pure devotee feels humbled hearing his glorification. Because he thinks if he only knew, because he thinks if they only knew how much dirt is in my heart. So he feels humbled. But we get proud. But we get proud. But we get proud thinking, finally, they recognize my greatness. A pure devotee feels humbled hearing his glorifications because he thinks, if they only knew how much dirt is in my heart, so he feels humbled. He only gets proud, but we get proud, thinking, finally, they recognize my greatness. What else? Anything else? Mataji? Anything else? You time for read? Oh, hey. Surprise. Welcome to my world.
The quality of forgiveness. As established earlier, a humble Vaishnava will always be tolerant and also forgiving. Humility sets the foundation for tolerance, which again sets the basis of forgiveness. A person who is not humble may struggle to be tolerant and may also find it difficult to forgive. Yet hearing how these qualities are connected to each other and desiring to acquire them, even when cultivated separately, will support and encourage the development of both. In other words, we can practice forgiving and letting go, and such cultivation will be a step towards humility. As confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 7.11.21, forgiveness is described as one of the Brahminical qualities. The symptoms of a Brahmana are control of mind, control of the senses, austerity and penance, cleanliness, satisfaction, forgiveness, simplicity, knowledge, mercy, truthfulness, and complete surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Furthermore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam 9.15.40, there is a following statement. The duty of a Brahmana is to culture the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is pleased with those who are forgiving. A nice point to meditate on is that it is indeed pleasing to Krishna if we can be forgiving. It is pleasing not only to Krishna, but also to Srila Prabhupada or Guru and the Vaishnavas. And in the purport to the Srimad Bhagavatam 6.4.5, it is explained, a sadhu, a devotee, is never angry. Actually, the real feature of devotees who undergo tapasya, austerity, is forgiveness. Although a Vaishnava has sufficient power in tapasya, he does not become angry when put into difficulty. The previous statement that a Vaishnava does not become angry about his own situation helps us to understand that our anger arises as a result of not being able to tolerate and forgive. We may feel we have all good reasons to become angry and consequently feel justified in our irritation. However, even if there may be good grounds for such a feeling to arise within our hearts and minds, a Vaishnava will not allow himself to be affected. He will be able to maintain a balanced and forgiving attitude. This may be earlier said than done. This may be easier said than done. It takes a strong desire to reach such a state of mind and a great deal of practice in prayerful cultivation. In this way, we can understand forgiveness to be a sign of spiritual maturity and purification of the heart. The inability to forgive can also be seen in connection with envy. An envious person may find it difficult to manifest the humility to forgive. He will want to retaliate and maintain his grudges. In recent times, we have often seen forgiveness seminars being offered, since the inability to forgive is a very common stumbling block in devotees' lives that obstructs their spiritual growth. Our endeavors to cultivate forgiveness will be more complete if, at the same time, we internally work on disobeying and neglecting the orders of the false ego. Along with this, practicing a culture of forgiveness may assist us in chipping away at our false ego little by little. Don't take things personally. As we become spiritually mature, we learn not to take things personally. We don't identify with certain behavior that cross our path. We don't accept ownership of it, and we don't give it too much importance. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 4.6.48, it is stated, "My dear Lord, if in some places materialists who are already bewildered by the insurmountable illusory energy of the Supreme Godhead sometimes commit offenses, a saintly person with compassion does not take this seriously. Knowing that they commit offenses because they are overpowered by the illusory energy, he does not show his prowess to counteract them." In the purport to the Srimad Bhagavatam 4.23, Srila Prabhupada further explains this point. Actually, the living entity or soul does not do anything. Everything is done under the influence of the modes of material nature. When a man is diseased, the symptoms of the disease become a source of all kinds of pain. Those who are advanced in transcendental consciousness or Krishna consciousness are never envious, neither of the soul nor of the activities of the soul under the influence of material nature. Advanced transcendentalists are called Suddhiya. Suddhi means intelligence, Suddhi means highly advanced, and Suddhi means devotee. One who is both devoted and highly advanced in intelligence does not take action against the soul or the body. If there is any discrepancy, he forgives. It is said that forgiveness is a quality of those who are advancing in spiritual knowledge. In this regard, Prahlad Maharaj is a glorious example. He never took the insults and attacks of his father personally, but maintained the transcendental vision of regarding him under the spell of envy and the three modes of material nature. He did not accept ownership of the assaults launched against him. When Prahlad Maharaj is offered a benediction by Lord Narasimhadev, all he requests is that his father be forgiven for his offenses and would not suffer any reactions for them. Such is the compassionate heart of a pure Vaishnava. Srila Prabhupada gave us the analogy of ISKCON being like a hospital where many patients with all kinds of diseases have taken shelter. They may display symptoms such as vomiting blood or passing stool and urine in the corridor. We will not take personal offense by such action, but rather respond with compassion and a genuine concern as to how to serve them to alleviate their suffering. We don't take such action as being personally directed against us. In the same way, when a devotee behaves in an insulting or neglectful way towards us or breaks our trust, our spiritual vision allows us to see through the external covering and understanding a conditioned soul to be behind such behavior, driven by the influence of the three modes of nature. As a rule, the person committing the offense suffers so much more than the person on the receiving end. After all, everyone wants harmonious and affectionate relationships with others around them. Our own envious or provocative behavior upsets and pollutes ourselves the most. As we develop a transcendental vision and seeing things beyond the bodily platform of life, we can conquer over such mundane disturbances and will not get affected by them. It will be like the water that runs off a duck's back and does not wet it. In fact, we can turn the calamity around and transform it into a golden opportunity to cultivate tolerance. Thank you, Krishna, for giving me this chance to simply tolerate and let go of my false ego's demands. In this way, we can use any unpleasant, painful, and seemingly inauspicious situation in order to make spiritual advancement. It requires the ability to see Krishna in the picture and have faith in him. Saying this does not mean we don't take into account the suggestions of others, how we may improve ourselves. A Vaishnava always accepts anything of value, even from a filthy place or offered by an unqualified person. He is expert in extracting gold and rejecting the dirt. What are your thoughts on this? Any comments or questions? Could you follow? The analogy with a hospital I find very helpful. Shall we continue or are you getting tired? Oh, question?
Mother, just like what you gave an example, that is an opportunity to see that Krishna has given me to rectify my false ego. So it's okay. But when it comes, the attack of false ego comes, it comes immediately and of like the Krishna gives in the next level also what we can tolerate, and above that it gives. Matlab, whatever the exam come to taste ourselves, sometimes Krishna gives much more than we can. Our threshold is there. He goes beyond our threshold of tolerance sometimes. He gives situation where the ego, that false ego, is beyond our threshold of our tolerance. So that time thinking that it is that Krishna has given me opportunity, it becomes very difficult because we flow away with our false ego nature. Ki how it happened? How can the person do like this? So very naturally it goes away. Conditioned nature. So how to see that Krishna's hand there? Okay, oh, I get an opportunity immediately.
Usually Krishna gives us what we can deal with, not more than that. And as we mentioned yesterday, we need a counselor who can help us accept things. Without such a well-wishing friend, we may be lost. We have to have the faith in Krishna that he has some reason for putting us in this situation. What else? I have a question on counselors. Because where are they? Where are the counselors? I'm looking for so long. So long I was searching for counselors, so at least in Germany. I know in Russia there are lots of counselors. I know the Russian devotees, everyone, oh, I have a mentor here, I have a mentor. But in Germany I got so many answers, oh no, I'm not qualified, oh no, I have no time, oh no, not this, not that. Where are all the counselors? Best is not to ask them, but simply to develop a trusting relationship by serving them and inquiring from them. Most people are afraid when they are asked whether they can be your counselor. because of ignorance, they don't know what it means. All we can do is bring attention to the importance of the topic. Especially in Germany, there is a lack of senior devotees because of some situations in the past. But if we have a burning desire to find a counselor, then Paramatma will witness. And will arrange that we meet the right person at the right time. It's a similar principle when looking for Guru. It all starts with a sincere desire. Thank you very much.
Mataji, you said that we should never suppress or swallow, whatever the offense that others are committing against us. But we should tolerate the situations that comes in our life. So I see there's a gap here, in the sense, I see a gap because it's always us who are making an effort to forgive others and trying to be in a better situation, or trying to gain spiritual energy. To strengthen our spiritual practices. But majority of it's not just you and me who is practicing. It's about the community who is supposed to practice. So then it becomes more harmonious to practice Krishna consciousness. Becomes harmonious to practice Krishna consciousness.
Harmonious?
So, how do we deal if we are in such a situation where we see devotees facing this very often? It's not just us, even others facing very often, even from the management side.
How do we deal with exactly what?
How to deal with the situations where we see, we may be practicing properly and we are growing in our spiritual practices by cultivating the tolerance, forgiveness, humility, all these qualities. But majority of the devotees with whom day in and day out we associate with, if the other person is not like that, and we see even our friends and our dear you said that we should not suppress the emotion, right? So sometimes it happens that we have to suppress. It doesn't become tolerant.
We can hope that by our genuine example, others will get inspired to follow. We can only start with ourselves. Creating a culture of forgiveness. The danger of Vaishnava aparad. To commit Vaishnava aparad is understood to be extremely dangerous for spiritual life. In the Padma Purana, we find the 10 offenses to the holy name, with the first one being sadhu ninda. To blaspheme devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord. The holy name, who is identical with Krishna, will never tolerate such blasphemous activities. In his purport to the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.1.5, Srila Prabhupada explains the point further. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warned his devotees not to commit Vaishnava aparad, which he described as the mad elephant offense. When a mad elephant enters a beautiful garden, it destroys everything, leaving a barren field. Similarly, the power of the Vaishnava aparad is so great that even an advanced devotee becomes almost devoid of his spiritual assets if he commits it. Since Krishna consciousness is eternal, it cannot be destroyed altogether, but advancement may be checked for the time being. Thus, Vaishnava aparad is one kind of impediment to devotional service. A devotee may humbly tolerate the offenses committed towards him, but Krishna will not tolerate it. The Vaishnavas are so dear to the Lord. They have conquered the Lord's heart by their selfless and devoted service and by their willingness to tolerate any misery for his satisfaction. In fact, Krishna allows himself to be controlled by their pure love. Thus, his devotees are dearer to him than his very self. If Krishna sees a person repeatedly committing offenses against his devotees, he may take action against him. The devotee may lose his taste for devotional practice, especially the chanting of the holy name. Krishna may even kick him out of the association of his devotees. Begging forgiveness. Understanding how detrimental Vaishnava aparad is to our spiritual progress, a devotee is very careful to avoid such an offense. If by mistake he has offended a Vaishnava, our etiquette instructs us to immediately beg forgiveness from the devotee we offended. It is the only way to become freed from the reactions of such a transgression. There is no other way. The Srimad Bhagavatam narrates the famous pastimes of Durvasa Muni and Ambarish Maharaj, illustrating how anger can bewilder the intelligence of even a great personality. Once, Durvasa Muni, a powerful yogi, approached the palace of Ambarisha Maharaj, a saintly king and exalted devotee of the Lord. Ambarisha prepared a reception with some sumptuous prasadam for Durvasa. As was the custom, before accepting his meal, Durvasa went to bathe in the river. While bathing, the mystic Durvasa entered a yogic trance and stayed in the water for some time. King Ambarisha had even observing a fast, and the proper time to break his fast was approaching. Not wanting to offend Durvasa by accepting his own meal before feeding his guest, Ambarish Maharaj drank a little water, an action that simultaneously breaks and does not break one's fast. By his yogic abilities, Durvasa came to know of his perceived transgression. Thinking the king's action disrespectful, Durvasa became insulted, and to retaliate, he went before Ambarish with angry words. He then invoked a fiery demon meant to destroy the king. But Lord Krishna protected his devotee Ambarisha and released his razor-sharp Sudarshan chakra towards Durvasa. After fleeing for his life, Durvasa came to his senses and realized how his pride and lust for adoration and distinction has provoked his needless wrath. No matter where he was trying to seek shelter, even at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu himself, his only saving grace was to fall at the feet of Ambarish Maharaj, whom he had offended, and beg forgiveness. If one commits an offense, he should beg forgiveness. Lord Brahma, after stealing the cows and cowherd boys, also begged Krishna to excuse him for his ignorance, and he offered beautiful prayers in glorification of the Lord. Lord Indra was carried away by anger when Krishna ordered the Vrajbasis to stop worshipping him and instead worshipping Govardhan hill. He sent the clouds of inundation to flood the entire region of Vrindavan, but Krishna lifted Govardhan hill to protect his dear devotees. Later, Indra came to his senses and in shame begged forgiveness from the Lord. Daksha became so puffed up that he neglected the great Vaishnava, Lord Shiva, and because of his offense, Lord Shiva punished him. Daksha, after receiving the head of a goat, offered the following prayer of gratitude. My dear Lord Shiva, I committed a great offense against you, but you are so kind that instead of withdrawing your mercy, you have done me a great favor by punishing me. You and Lord Vishnu never neglect even useless, unqualified brahmanas. Why then should you neglect me, who am engaged in performing sacrifices? Srimad Bhagavatam 4:7-13. Even if we think we may not have committed an offense, nevertheless it is always advised to beg forgiveness. Just the fact that we disturbed another devotee shows that we did something wrong. The Srimad Bhagavatam 11:18-31 instructs us as follows. A saintly person should never let others frighten or disturb him, and similarly should never frighten or disturb other people. He should tolerate the insults of others and should never himself belittle anyone. He should never create hostility with anyone for the sake of the material body, for he would thus be no better than an animal. The purport to this verse explains further. A Vaishnava should never disturb any other living entity with his body, mind, or words. He should always be tolerant and never belittle others. Although a Vaishnava may act powerfully against the demons for Lord Krishna's sake, as did Arjuna, Hanuman, and many other great devotees, a Vaishnava becomes very meek and humble in regard to his own reputation. Thus, the humble attitude of a Vaishnava will always allow him to see the mistakes in himself rather than blaming others. He therefore is always ready to apologize. King Rahugana sets an example for us even as a king, In the Srimad Bhagavatam 5:10-24, he addressed Jada Bharata as follows: "Whatever you have spoken appears to me to be contradictory. O best friend of the distressed, I have committed a great offense by insulting you. I was puffed up with false prestige due to possessing the body of a king. For this I have certainly become an offender. Therefore I pray that you kindly glance at me with your causeless mercy. If you do so, I can be relieved from sinful activities brought absolute by insulting you." And Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that by offending a Vaishnava, one finishes all his spiritual activities. Offending a Vaishnava is considered the mad elephant offense. A mad elephant can destroy an entire garden which has been developed with great labor. One may attain the topmost platform of devotional service, but somehow or other, if he offends a Vaishnava, the whole structure collapses. Unconsciously, King Rahugana offered Jada Bharat, but due to his good sense, he asked to be excused. This is a process by which one can be relieved from a Vaishnava aparad. Krishna is always very simple and by nature merciful. When one commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava, one must immediately apologize to such a personality so that his spiritual advancement may not be hampered. By asking forgiveness, we can immediately feel the burden of the offense being lifted from our heart. We have to pay the price of mustering up humility in order to approach the person we offended and apologize. It is always easier to maintain our pride and blame the other, expecting them to approach us to ask for forgiveness. Sometimes devotees may experience their false egos at loggerheads, with neither of them approaching the other in humility. The false egos are blocking our way. The first to apologize is the bravest. The first to forgive is the strongest. The first to forget is the happiest. Forgive others as quickly as you would want Krishna to forgive you. Jai. What are your thoughts? Any comments or questions? By asking forgiveness, we can create a culture of forgiveness. And others may also follow. Maybe as a last thing, we read some forgiveness meditations, which I find very useful. Forgiveness meditations. Life in the material world will always confront us with so many unexpected disappointments and hurtful situations. It is unavoidable. Our relationships will be filled with joy and harmony as we learn to forgive and move on. Let us take the opportunity to meditate on further aspects of forgiveness, simply endeavoring to imbibe their mood and wisdom with an open heart and mind. Nelson Mandela shared, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." Another thinker discovers, "I never knew how strong I was until I had to forgive someone who wasn't sorry and accept an apology I never received." We can forgive others not because they deserve forgiveness, but because we deserve peace. The truth is, unless we let go, unless we forgive ourselves, unless we forgive the situation and others around us, unless we realize the situation is over, we cannot move forward. In such moments, it is of the greatest importance to have a confidential, well-wishing friend on our side, someone who is senior to us and more experienced. He can help us in our internal battle to reach the point of acceptance to forgive. Without such assistance, we may get entirely lost and drawn in our pain of being offended. Forgiveness is not only something we do for other people, we also do it for ourselves, to get well and move on. Forgiveness doesn't excuse their behavior, it prevents their behavior from destroying our heart. Maybe it is not always about trying to fix something broken. Maybe it is about starting over and creating something better. Forgiveness is when I give up my right to hurt you for hurting me. It is not about letting someone off the hook for their actions, but freeing ourselves of negative energies that bind us to them. Forgiving does not erase the bitter past. A healed memory is not a deleted memory. Instead, forgiving what we cannot forget creates a new way to remember. We change the memory of our past into a hope for our future. Relationships get stronger when both are willing to understand mistakes and forgive each other. We can offer a prayer. My dear Lord, if I hurt others, give me the strength to apologize. If people hurt me, give me the strength to forgive. It takes a strong person to say sorry and an even stronger person to forgive. Forgive those who have hurt us, betrayed us, or broken our heart, for they have helped us learn about trust and the importance of being cautious when we open our heart to others. To forgive is not always easy. At times it feels more painful than the wound we suffered, to forgive the one that inflicted it. And yet there is no peace without forgiveness. When we forgive, we heal. When we let go, we grow. Forgiveness is about recognizing that staying resentful creates an active echo of the pain the offender caused. By saying that the awful offense the offender did is beyond forgiveness, we give them the power to keep their offense alive in our heart. We give the offender continued power over us. Forgiveness is about recognizing that staying resentful creates an active echo of the pain the offender caused. By saying that the awful offense the offender did is beyond forgiveness, we give them the power to keep their offense alive in our heart. We give the offender continued power over us. Did you understand this point? She wants to repeat again. Forgiveness is about recognizing that staying resentful creates an active echo of the pain the offender caused. By saying that the awful offense the offender did is beyond forgiveness, we give them the power to keep their offense alive in our heart. We give the offender continued power over us. Forgiveness begins with the mind recognizing that there is a truthful logic in how the past cannot be changed, but happily the present and the future can be. Eventually, forgiveness progresses to the heart, with the heart deciding it will no longer allow the offender's pain to take permanent residence. Eventually, the heart and mind together recognize that the choice to forgive is both logical and spiritually uplifting. Maybe we leave it at that. Any last questions?
Thank you very much for your lessons, for the workshop on false ego, on forgiveness. I didn't read your books yet, but I will. And already now, after these brief lessons, I feel very much empowered. So you have given the tools, the practical tools, how I can recognize when it's my false ego screaming. I feel even now, I'm so sorry I was late, but listening to these quotes, I feel motivated to forgive because it is for my good sake. So thank you very much for your time and for giving these lessons. Thank you.
Maybe we can share with your neighbor what the seminar gave you. Just for a couple of minutes. Yes. Okay, maybe somebody wants to share with all of us their realizations of the seminar. Final realizations in a nutshell.
For me, every single line was very precious. I have like 4, 5 full scale pages of notes which I want to soft copy now properly. But since I'm a technical person, one technical point which really struck me was, I was always into mind is my enemy. But now I know behind the mind, ego is the actual thing. False ego is what is using my mind to create all the problems. I'm very thankful to you.
Sorry, my false ego does not want me to speak. We are very grateful because it, as I was sharing with them, for me the whole seminar came to the close to the third verse of the Shikshastakam, where in order to Kirtaniya Sadahari, in order to chant constantly, which is our main goal for this human life, we need to be humble and we need to be tolerant. And in order to do that, we have to dissolve this false ego. In order to tolerate something, we have to remove the false ego, and we have to think about the other person, why he has done that. Maybe if we think about ourselves, we won't be able to think what the other person is going through, his bring up, his atmosphere, or the intention behind it has done that. So it takes us from ourselves to the others, to tolerate. And I always meditating on mana amanina manadena. We always have to pay respect, but we never look for respect. And that recognition, that like this, we were talking about taking offenses, that we hold on to this because we think of ourselves greater than others and even greater than what we are. We may know who we are a little bit, but the false ego put us in a platform which is false. So when reality hits, we come to where we really are. And in order to do that, it's good on one sense because it puts us in the platform where we stand really. We have to be humble to accept it. We have to be strong enough. I was sharing a little bit also that, at least my experience, I'm very forgiven. I can easily forgive, let's say, but when it comes to forgive myself, I cannot do it. So always taking the blame and, the wiping myself, which I know is the false ego from the other perspective, like on the other extreme. So the false ego takes very kind of masks. So if
if we can go deep into our bhajan, so we can unmask all these faces of ourselves, which is melting down the false ego, then we will be able to go deep into levels of our chanting.
Anybody else wants to share something?
Hare Krishna. From this session, I understood that the whole, like in the first session only, you told that the whole Krishna consciousness is very internal. So I understood that the whole drama that goes on with our lives, that all the mistakes we do, offenses, anything, is only to change our internal world. Krishna gives the opportunity. Even we are being hurt or we hurt others, or we are being given the false ego hit, anything is given an opportunity. We can see, I don't know, that Krishna is giving me a taste to every time advance more and more. So I can be very gratitude to Krishna that he has given this so nice platform. Every moment he is trying me to advance. So the whole vision changed a lot. Thank you, Mataji.
I also want to thank all of you for coming every day and participating. I was happy to spend my time in your association. And I hope our paths will cross again in future. In the book, there's my email address. In my books, in all the books, is my email address. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. And I would be so happy to meet you at the Holy Name Retreat at ISKCON. If not this year, then maybe next year. Okay, thank you for tolerating this last session without me being able to speak. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Devaki Mataji ki jai. Thank you so much.